Kant's impact has been even more devastating to the Christian worldview than David Hume's. For if Kant's philosophy is right, and there's no way to know anything about the real world, even empirically verifiable things. Why? Because according to Kant, the structure of your senses and your mind forms all sense data, so you never really know the thing in itself. You only know the thing to you after your mind and senses form it. At this point, for just a second, pause this video and locate a tree or a picture of a tree. When you locate the tree or the picture of the tree, resume this video. Kant is saying that the tree that you think that you're looking at appears the way it does because your mind is forming the sense data you're getting from that tree. You don't really know the tree in itself, you only know the phenomena your mind categorizes about the tree. In short, you can't, see the pun there, know the real tree in itself, only the tree as it appears to you. So why is it that the average person on the street doesn't doubt what he sees with his own two eyes, but supposedly brilliant philosophers do doubt what they see with their own two eyes? It becomes plain that the more one studies philosophy, if you want to make the obvious seem obscure, just let a philosopher get a hold of it. Yes, philosophy will muddy the waters for you. Nevertheless, we can't avoid studying philosophy because, according to C.S. Lewis, good philosophy must exist, if for no other reason because bad philosophy needs to be answered. Very true. Kant's philosophy is bad philosophy. Yet it has convinced many people that there is an unbridgeable gulf between them and the real world, that there's no way you can get any reliable knowledge about what the world is really like, much less what God is really like. According to Kant, we're locked in complete agnosticism about the real world. Thankfully, there's a simple answer to this, one that we've already discovered, the Roadrunner tactic. Kant commits the same error Hume committed. Both Hume and Kant violate the law of non-contradiction. Kant contradicts his own premise by saying that no one can know the real world, while he claims to know something about it, namely that the real world is unknowable. In effect, Kant says the truth about the real world is that there are no truths about the real world. In addition, Kant's also making the nothing but logical fallacy. This is a fallacy because nothing but statements imply more than knowledge. Nothing but statements imply more than knowledge. Kant says he knows the data that gets to his brain is nothing but phenomena. But in order to show this, he would have to be able to see more than just the phenomena. In other words, in order to differentiate one thing from another thing, you have to be able to perceive where one ends and the other begins. For example, if you put a piece of white paper on a black desk, the only way you can tell where the paper ends is by seeing some of the desk that borders it. The contrast between the paper and the desk allows you to see the boundaries of the paper. Likewise, in order for Kant to differentiate the thing in the real world from that which his mind perceives, he'd have to be able to see both. But this is exactly what Kant says can't be done. Kant says only the phenomena of the mind can be known, not the noumena, his term for the real world. If there's no way to distinguish between the phenomena and the noumena, then you can't see how they might differ. And if you can't see how they might differ, then it makes much more sense to assume that they're the same. In other words, that the idea in your mind accurately represents the thing in the real world. What Turek and Geisler are saying is that you really do know the thing in itself. You really do know the tree you're seeing because it's being impressed on your mind through your senses. In other words, Kant was wrong. Your mind doesn't mold the tree molds your mind. Just think about a wax seal. It's not the wax that impresses the seal, it's the seal that impresses the wax. There's no gulf between your mind and the real world. In fact, your senses are the windows to the world, are your windows to the world. And your senses, like windows, are that through which we can look at the outside world. Senses are not that at which we are looking. Kant claims he can't know anything about the real world, the thing in itself. How does he know the real world is there? Kant's view is self-defeating because he claims you can't know anything about the real world while simultaneously asserting that he knows that the real world is unknowable. Hume and Kant are wrong. So what? Since Hume and Kant violate the law of non-contradiction, their attempts to destroy all religious truths fail. However, just because Hume and Kant are wrong, that doesn't necessarily mean that we have positive evidence for, say, the existence of God. The roadrunner tactic can only reveal that a proposition is false. The roadrunner tactic does not provide positive evidence that any particular claim, such as God is real, is true. So, is it true that a theistic God exists? Is there any knowable evidence that will give us is there any knowable evidence that will give us certainty one way or the other? Is there any knowable evidence that will give us certainty one way or the other? Is there such a thing as knowable evidence for an unseen God? To answer those questions, we need to investigate how truth itself can be known.